We've just heard about over a dozen new games headed for the PlayStation 5, Sony's new console planned to release later this year. But out of all of these games, which games stood out the most and what can we expect from these titles? I'm about to break down the top 12 games coming to the PlayStation 5 that were announced at the event. This list will include sequels to returning titles, brand new IPs, and details about their release date. I'll also showcase even more honorable mentions after my top 12 list, so make sure to stay for that at the end. There are just so many incredible games to talk about, so let's jump into the list. At number 12, we have a remake for Demon's Souls headed for the PlayStation 5. The game has been rebuilt from the ground up with ray tracing, shadow effects, and just PlayStation 5 worthy stunning graphics. The release date for Demon's Souls remake hasn't been confirmed, but it's sure to get From Software fans happy. At number 11, we have our first new IP to hit the list. It's Project Athia, a new game from Square Enix. Little is known about it so far, but it seems to be a story-focused action-adventure single-player game. After watching the trailer, from the brief gameplay elements that were shown, I kind of got Tomb Raider vibes fused with a ton of mystical abilities and dark creatures. There's no release date yet. At number 10, we have Ghostwire Tokyo, planned for release in 2021. This game is published by Bethesda Softworks and focuses on a strange alternate version of Tokyo where 99% of the population has vanished, and the only ones left in control are powerful beings with supernatural forces. You take the main role as you use your own abilities to fight back and learn what happened to Tokyo. At number 9, we have Oddworld Soulstorm. Finally, we get to return to the nostalgic world of Abe's Odyssey, this time touching on even more chaotic gameplay, gritty dark story, and tidbits of crude humour. Oddworld Soulstorm is a platformer game with a dark underlying story that I've been waiting for way too long, and it's finally coming to PlayStation 5 in 2020. It will seek to propel the series further while staying true to the original game series which released back in the late 90s. At number 8, another absolute classic franchise will return with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. No release date was mentioned, but it's certainly going to get people excited already. Ratchet & Clank has been a household name for the PlayStation brand for over 2 decades, but the last full release besides the remake was 7 years ago. There's so much more technology to turn Ratchet & Clank into a far deeper, more expansive action platformer, and I'm sure the trailer footage will let your imagination run wild. At number 7, we have Gran Turismo 7. It's of course set to be the best, most realistic driving sim in the universe, like always, and it's looking absolutely stunning on the PlayStation 5. Of course, I'm sure this will get a lot of people excited, even if this genre isn't as popular as some of the others in this video. There's no release date yet. At number 6, Kena Bridge of Spirits is next. This is a game that totally caught me by surprise, in a good way. It has an absolutely charming graphic style, yet it feels also familiar somehow. It almost has this Avatar The Last Airbender vibe, but Kena will stand on its own 2 feet as an excellent storytelling experience fused into action-orientated gameplay. No release date yet for Kena. At number 5, we have Deathloop. Immediately, you may recognize the developers behind this one. It's none other than Arcane Studios, the team responsible for the Dishonored series. Ghostloop is a new IP though, and it looks mind-blowingly unique. In Deathloop, you will go to the island of Blackreef, where a time loop puts the island in an endless cycle. You'll play as Colt and must go head-to-head with another assassin to try and put an end to the seemingly endless time loop. As each loop repeats, you have more chances to learn more, take new approaches, and get better at the game. There's no release date yet, but it's expected to launch this holiday season. At number 4, we have Resident Evil 8 Village. It will be a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, starring Ethan Winters and Chris Redfield at the center of the story. We take control of Ethan as an encounter with Chris Redfield sends Ethan into a spiral of chaotic events. Resident Evil 8 will release at some point in 2021. At number 3, we have Hitman 3, the finale in the entire Assassination trilogy. I'm sure a lot of people will be hyped for this one and will get to take Agent 47 to new heights, both figuratively and literally. IO confirmed will have Agent 47 visit the heights of Dubai. Hitman 3 will launch in January 2021. At number 2, we have Spider-Man Miles Morales, which will be a sequel to the Insomniac developed Spider-Man in 2018. We all know how incredible Spider-Man was back in 2018, and I know a lot of you out there are big fans of Miles Morales as a character in the Marvel Universe, so I'm sure Insomniac will do great things with this game. Spider-Man Miles Morales will launch this holiday period, hopefully alongside the PlayStation 5. Nobody really knows if this will be a sort of expansion from the original Spider-Man from 2018 or if it will be a new game from the ground up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it will borrow a lot of the architecture and technology from Insomniac's Spider-Man back in 2018. At number 1, we of course have the long-awaited Horizon Zero Dawn sequel, Horizon Forbidden West. The game will pick up directly where the first game finished, and we'll get to see a closer look at the mysteries that may explain exactly what happened to tear her world to pieces. Horizon Forbidden West has no confirmed release date as of yet. So that's it, that's the big 12 games, but there's so much more news to cover, and I'll go into some of the honorable mentions now. It was confirmed that Grand Theft Auto 5, not 6, will be coming to PlayStation 5 in the second half of 2021. And to kind of get people excited for it and sort of in a way to team up with PlayStation, Rockstar are going to be offering everyone that plays Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 4 $1 million in GTA cash every month until the PS5 version comes out. So this is kind of crazy that Grand Theft Auto 5 has now jumped 2 generations of console. It's such a long-lasting game, so it's quite impressive. So if you're still playing GTA Online, you're going to want to be on PlayStation for this one. Next, we have NBA 2K21. Is it any surprise that there's going to be a new NBA game? We don't really know what it's going to be like. I can imagine it's going to be very similar to NBA 2K20, but with a lot of new graphical improvements, as we can see from this very short trailer. I like NBA as a game, but I do think that the series has kind of gone downhill with all of the microtransaction stuff, so let's hope they turn a new leaf this generation, but we'll have to be lucky for that one. Next up, we have Godfall, which seems to be this kind of hack and slash game that may derive some inspiration from Dark Souls, but it kind of didn't quite inspire me enough or grab my attention. It wasn't quite something that got my eye. It is made by Gearbox, and they have made some very good games in the past, but we'll have to wait to see some real gameplay to learn more about what this game's going to do to captivate its players. Now, with a name like Godfall, I know a lot of you are probably wondering about God of War and a potential God of War sequel. We don't really know anything about this yet, and there wasn't any announcement at the PlayStation event, but hopefully we'll hear some new stuff in the near future. Next, we have Pragmata, which will be coming in 2022. I'll kind of let the background footage from the trailer do the explanation here. It's just a whole lot of crazy. We don't really know what's going on. It's obviously designed to try and intrigue us and spark curiosity, and can you guess who it's from? It's from Capcom. It's probably no surprise these style of games come from Capcom a lot, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Could be a great game, but we know nothing about the gameplay, and it's definitely possible that it may be a long time before we get any more news on gameplay. Next up, we have this game called Returnal. There's a lot of hype behind this, but it's kind of hard to know what it's going to really be like in terms of gameplay mechanics and story. It definitely looks very interesting, and strangely enough, it was made by the people who made Resogun, which is definitely a very different game in terms of genre, so I'm very curious to see what happens to this game. Very excited. It looks like we're going to get a lot of combat and action in this game too, which is definitely very great. Next up, we have a new game from the Little Big Planet creators called Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Now, we all loved Little Big Planet, especially for the creation tools it gave us. There was a big community that surrounded that, but I don't know if there'll be any creation tools in this. It seems this is going to be more of a platformer game, just focused on Sackboy. It's going to be featuring up to 4 players at once. Obviously, we had something similar called Sackboy's Prehistoric Moves back in 2010, and it did feature some user-created levels, so I don't know, maybe that would be the same with Little Big Planet 3 as well. What would be really interesting is if they took some levels and things created in Dreams and turned that into its own experience. I'd definitely be interested to see what happens with Dreams in the near future. But either way, Sackboy is great to see. He's a very cheery guy, so this will be a fun game for the younger ones. Next up, we have Destruction All-Stars, and this game is kind of a mixture of just I don't know what. It kind of has this Rocket League vibe. You have these cars driving around at big speed, but it's also kind of got Destruction Derby vibes, Carmageddon, but then you mix in these sort of wrestling characters that are running around in the track as well, and I just don't really know what's going on. They've mixed cars with these wrestling superstar characters with all sorts of personalities. It looks like a lot of fun, and it could definitely be something that I'd sink a lot of hours into, so I'm definitely excited to see the real gameplay of this game in the future. There was no details about when this game will be released, so we'll have to keep tuned. So that's it, that is my full list. There are so many more games though, so definitely leave your favorite games in the comments. Let me know what you're the most excited about with the PlayStation 5. Which games are you looking forward to the most? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio!